Salute everybody. It is the URLivePodcast, Underground Remix Live, your number one radio source for live rhythm and news, classics and current events, music and information, jams and thoughts, which sometimes require a little participation and improvisation during our live jam sessions broadcasted from right here at the station. I'm your master of ceremony, Sherrod, and I have a special guest on the phone with me. Shout outs to Studley. How you doing, Studley?
I am well, brother Sherrod.
The last time before we did a call and I was trying to get the sound right, I was like, you just called me all government, just all government. And this is still government. That's my middle name. That's what I go by now,
Okay.
but it's all love. What's going
Yes,
on?
yes. Nothing much. Just passing through the day. Just passing through.
How was Bible study?
It was good. It was good. We just did some introductory stuff today, so it was good. It was good.
Okay. Um, so I recently sent you a text and
Mhm.
I thought the response was worthy of inviting you to be on the podcast because it's all relevant. And I thought it would
Mhm.
be a great, just sort of like season opener as
Okay.
I am, rededicating to the production of my podcast and the flow and welcoming
Right.
of conversation, dialogue, healing, growth, the whole thing. So, let me
Mhm.
see. Yesterday or recently, I did a sound check. Today's like day 4 of me doing sound checks, and even still trying to take a call. I see now that it's going to be a little more complicated trying to do that from an iPhone as opposed to an Android. And I was saying I'm so team Android right now, even though I currently have an iPhone. I'm not mad at going back to Android. And I was like
Okay.
against iPhone for a very long time. But anyway,
Okay.
I was all excited. I sent my recent sound check out the other day. It was like I was in, just sort of like a creative zone in space. And then my objective was really focusing on audio and sound quality and getting through a lot of the kinks and challenges just production wise. And so I was just so
Mhm.
happy by the end of it and rehearsing that I was just like, you know what? It's good enough. I'm uploading it and I'm sending it out. So I just started sending it out, the link, uploading it to YouTube and sending out the link to just like anybody that I wanted to share it to. Um,
Mhm.
and you were one of those people.
Okay.
And then sometimes, you do stuff without thinking about it and you get feedback. And I was just like, you know what? I did not think about that. So I sent out the sound check and I did it from my laptop. I don't have much on my laptop. I try to like keep it like clear because I just know
Mhm.
space sometimes it could slow it down when you just have like a bunch of stuff on it. So I have limited pictures on my laptop. And so I really just uploaded anything from a particular folder, just that, I had. And it was a picture of an empty studio. And then there's a picture of the painting that we ended up doing for the
Mhm.
painting event. And then the actual image that we were painting. And it was nude art. So I didn't even think about it that I had sent a picture to my old choir member of like nude art. And this was the feedback that I got. It was like, hey, good morning. So happy to receive this message. I'll check out the podcast. Excited for the next chapter in your life. And then I see, hey, good morning. I had a chance to check it out. So, question: what is the theme of the podcast and who is your target audience? I ask because I have to be honest and say the artwork and photo you used was distracting, full transparency. And I didn't think about it. So, first, I want to apologize for sending that
Mhm.
distraction to you. Not
Mhm.
my intention. It was just completely negligent. I'm 35 now, 88 baby, and free and living in LA and just wasn't even thinking about that. So my apologies.
No, I knew I just wanted to gauge your headspace, because it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm just I just wanted to really just gauge like what your thought process was. That was the motive behind the text, because I'm like, yeah, I don't want to seem like I'm bashing or I'm trying to be on the attack, because I just definitely want to be supportive, and I want to be and I think creativity can be expressed in different ways. So it's like, I mean, there is, sometimes you have a perspective that I don't have, and it's like, well, this is where I'm coming from, and this is what this means, and for me, in that particular point, it was kind of like, oh, okay, I need to get past these two. I need to get past these two bodies to actually pay attention to the body of work that you're trying to present. So it was, it takes some serious focus for me to get back into that headspace. Especially, it depends on the day of the week too, because sometimes I can't get back to a reality. It's like, okay, scratch, the whole day is done. The whole day just done. Throw the whole day away. It's done. But
Oh
yeah,
my.
but in this particular frame, I was able to identify, and I think it's also showing sometimes you gotta be able to do self-analysis, and I had to be able to get to the place where I'm like, okay, yo, this is something that's probably gonna get me into a space where I'm going to start going into a direction that I don't want to go into. So
Mm-hmm.
I needed to identify that in that moment and be like, okay, step back, and then just go 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 to my brother and ask him the question, and see what his frame of thought was, and then so that I could also get perspective. That's really where I was coming from.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
look, I appreciate all of it. It's all relevant. That's actually what I put in my text response. I said, it's all relevant, including your objective perspective, and
Hmm.
would serve as therapy for myself and other listeners in the audience. The nature of the podcast is art therapy and therapy. Everything I sort of reached out to you about on a spontaneous improv level for in real life, which was me being at such a dark place and isolated in life and estranged from my family at the moment, having left the church, but very much so still a spiritual being who loves and serves God, ministers in my own way, but outside of the confines of the traditional Christian church, still in the world slash wilderness a little bit, but on assignment, light in the darkness, as many of God's servants have been used in the Bible. I didn't have glamorous or have been used in the Bible. They didn't have glamorous personal lives or high-ranking social status. I've truly been through some things. Teaching in the DCPS school system, even there at the church that we serve together at in the choir. I have a lot to talk about and to release. So, to answer your question, after giving it some thought, my audience would be closer to the soul audience of Sam Cooke and Aretha Franklin, who did secular, but with gospel roots. And it was controversial then, but it reached. And they never stopped singing gospel songs. There's also a stigma on therapy in the black community, something we don't as a whole partake in. Two recent reposts from the URLivePodcast page on Instagram that went viral brought up a lot of controversial audience engagement in the comment section. The first one was a video of a lady asking this. I want to go ahead and play it.
Hmm.
Let's see if it'll play out.
I have one question. What did black women do to black men that was so bad? What did we do historically that was so bad?
Stole our children and used them as pawns for child support. You embarrass us on the daily by not dressing modestly. You talk about our mothers when we disagree with your behavior. You call us homosexual when we assert our masculinity. You lie on us to the world by telling them that we unalive you every 5.5 hours. You call the police on us and get us thrown in prison or jail more than anybody else. You disrespect us when we try to bring together our families, which is what you did when you brought up Kevin Samuels in your video. You claim that we're trash and deadbeat fathers, even though we are the most involved in our children's lives. You always talking about how we bash you, but you never bring up the videos of us doing so. What you would rather do is just say it and then act like the videos we do post about you aren't about your behavior, mannerisms, and characteristics that we wish would change.
I have one question. What did
What people don't understand.
Okay, so there's that one. And then there's one more, just for time's sake. I'm going to go ahead because they're both relevant. One. Here we go.
I ended a relationship and cut off an engagement from a great man. He was a good man. He loved God. He was a praying man. He loved and adored me. He was there for me. He was handsome. He was well educated. He didn't have any kids. He checked all the boxes. But there was still something missing. And I just knew that I could not go through with this marriage. There was just something that did not connect. I felt that there was should have been a connection between
Come on,
he
iPhone.
and I in order for me to be his wife.
And
so I cut off the engagement. And it was so difficult because he was a good man. It's easy when a person is not good. You can justify why you cut things off, but when a person is truly a good person, it's hard to explain. So I found myself trying to explain it to family and friends, and they were asking me a whole bunch of questions that, I could not say, exactly why, other than the fact that I just did not feel the connection.
Boom. So, theme for opening this year in the podcast, straight up, I've been saying nice guys finish last. When you hear that phrase, how do you feel? What's your response?
It's unfortunate, but a lot of the times, especially with the flashy society we're in right now, unfortunately, it still reigns true because oftentimes, the ones who have good intentions and come off, without the flash, without the foolishness, get overlooked. And, or they'll be called, I don't know, something, they're not, it's not considered cultured enough. It's not considered hip enough. So they get overlooked. So, nice guys and gals, I'll add that one in there. Oftentimes, don't get a second glance because it's just not risque enough. It's not catchy enough, and it's not trendy enough. So I'm not going to disagree with that phrase, even in our present times.
Okay. When I sent you those two clips, and also to look at the comment engagement and the back and forth going on in the comments. I'm just curious, how did you feel?
I mean, people are always going to be torn, and it's understandable. We're all different people, different personalities, different experiences, and I get a bit turned off by it because I feel like some conversations we just don't need to start attacking each other for having different perspectives, because I'm not going to change your mind and you're not going to change my mind. When I have my when I'm set in my ways on certain things, nobody's moving me. And if you're set in your ways on certain things, nobody's moving you. So it's like we don't have to get on the attack, and we don't have to make it our business to try to convince somebody to think the way that we think. And I think we're still trying to do that with each other when we have conflicting views and experiences. But the thing about it is, it's like I can't, even though I don't agree with you, I can't discount what you're saying because I didn't live your experience. So, and the problem with that is oftentimes the negative experiences that we've lived tend to paint a narrative that we're carrying around that may not necessarily be the full truth. And then we end up like carrying these biases. I'm not even, Lord, I think I said the word incorrectly, but we're just biased about certain people, certain things, and it's because of one or two incidents that we encountered, and all of a sudden we've just put everybody in a bubble. And it's like, well, you haven't met all black women, you haven't met all black men, so you can't say black men are this or black women are that. And it's like, because everybody doesn't share the same narratives. So it's interesting that the comments will go, because I mean, people do get triggered by certain reactions. And so when people it's easy to be a social media commentator, because you don't have to see anybody's face, and you don't have to, feel their emotions. You just write what you want to write, and you're gone. And and if you have the courage enough to write it, you'll do it. But you don't have to actually stand there and look at anybody in the face. So of course, people get more bold in the comments too. So it's just a lot of things going on that make the comments, the back and forth, the backbiting and the snarkiness. Sometimes it's tiring, but again, people just tend to feed into unfortunately controversy, and that's, I don't know. I guess it's part of human nature. I really don't know how to do that, to explain it.
Heard. Gotcha. Well, I thank you for your response. When I saw those two posts, I personally, as a man, black man, and in full transparency, also the nice guy, in my theme, nice guys finish last, from first-hand experience, you know, this is all personal. This is all coming from me and being triggered by a lot of things recently in the past year. And it started, honestly, it started with the Will Smith slap at the Oscars. And then sort of like the indulgence or the focus on their marriage, Will and Jada, just because they were sort of like a staple of, a black marriage, sticking it through. And then for him, he was not Tupacalypse now, but Will, Fresh Prince getting jiggy with it. You don't have to be thugnificent, but you could be that nice guy and still win in life. And so he represented that for a long time, and then took like this L. And I've been waiting on his victory, and it just like never really came. And I was like waiting on it. And so I took it personal a little bit. I felt a little let down, and I started seeing, these viral posts come up, and I was just like, yo, what's going on? I know what my personal experiences have been, and many disappointing ones. And all I could say is recently I did a interview with this girl, and when I was walking her from the parking lot, the garage parking lot, into the studio where we were doing the interview, she was like, "Are you directing traffic?" And I was just like, "Chivalry, like the guy walking on the more dangerous side of the street." She was like, "What is chivalry?" Now, this is a grown woman, grown adult.
Yeah.
And I eventually talked about it when we went live. I was just like, yo, I'm sorry. This puts so much into perspective for me. I'm living in an era where I'm dealing with so much frustration with women, but like you just like not even negatively, not even like intentionally, you just said so much, and it was that you don't even know what chivalry is. And that I feel like that represented an entire era and generation that I'm living in, where I'm actually old school, bringing the old school vibes, bringing the manners, the Southern hospitality, and the chivalry. And of all places, I'm in LA, where these women literally don't even know the word or the definition, nor to identify the traits and what chivalry is. So that means like it's a whole certain level of respect and like honor that you see as a weakness that is actually supposed to be a strength, an advantage.
Wow. Yeah, dang, these are some tricky streets out here. Because it's like, ooh, chivalry. I mean, I guess, but and I can't be surprised though, because a lot of the things of old have, people try to downplay them and call them played out and unnecessary. And so, and then throughout time, if you don't teach it, of course, it's not going to be something it's not something that we're born knowing. If it's not taught, I mean, who taught her? How was she brought up? And if she has never seen it or heard, of it, then it's like, okay, this is not a thing. And, what are you doing? And it becomes a foreign concept. And a lot of the things that I guess, my grandparents, my parents, instilled in me now is kind of like, nah, we don't do that no more. So it's kind of like, because it's like, it's really not necessary. But then we find ourselves in having these heated discussions when it comes to the male female dynamics and the expectations in the relationships, and how and why there is contention, and why there's animosity. You got to think about, at the core, what was given. And so, yeah, man, I mean, cancel me for it if you want to, but it's unfortunate that that you have full-grown adults that don't know or have never experienced a chivalrous act from anyone. Especially, I mean, I don't think it makes you any less of a woman to be, to have a man hold the door for you. I don't think it takes away anything from a man to do that either. So, I think it's unfortunate that's a thing. But I mean, I'm walking at Panera, and this dude just walks in the door. I mean, just flings it. Doesn't even look back. Doesn't care. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this is the era we're in, and I'm not surprised anymore. Like maybe 10 years ago, I probably would have been like, dang. But now I'm just like, oh, okay, it's to be expected.
That part, and I think that that's one of the toughest parts to me, is when I have finally started adapting and adjusting to the world, to just like alleviate my frustration and the whole letdown
Right.
part. Because like I would get frustrated and like take it a little personal at one point, but there's so much, if you don't get caught up with the times, there's so much, like you can't even afford to be mad and get frustrated. You really have to, like, this is something that's irritated me. So we're also living in the era of not what it is, but what I identify as. And something very offensive to me that is now on like job applications, and it is, how do you identify? And it's asking you gender, and I'm like, not how I identify. What is it? I am a man. Period. And I think it's so irritating, ignorant, and insulting to have to answer that question, because, like, no, there is no identification. It's what it is. Are you a male or a female? And that's it. Like, it's actually like, they to accommodate everybody else. They're not even thinking about how offensive. Like, a man does not have to even, like, that's, you can, to answer that question is annoying.
Well, and we've gotten to the place where anything goes. So that's how I believe those types of questions have become the norm, because it's like, well, there is no box. You can today you feel like you identify as a bird. Okay, you're a bird, and can't nobody tell you otherwise. Otherwise, you're part of cancel culture, because this person wants to be called Bird, and you decided that actually you're a female, but okay. So it's like, if you and it's like, but then at one point it's like, well, I see myself as a female, so I don't think I should have to rearrange my vocabulary to fit what your, I guess, expectation is that day, because then I feel like I'm being oppressed, but nobody sees it that way. It's kind of like, no, let's answer these questions about how you identify today. And it's kind of like, okay, well, this whole fluid society piece, I'm behind on it. And I mean, call me old, you can do that, that's fine. I'm just behind on it. I can't wrap my mind on it. So it's like, oh, okay.
I've been on that. I've been on sort of like accepting, you know what, I'm just old school. Let me get back to my roots real quick, because the times that we're living in, to try to even keep up is causing too much adaptation, is causing too much frustration. And I'm like, let me just be what it is. And I'm just old school. Let me enlighten you if you want to step into my space. But we don't even have to be in the same space. Just like y'all could be doing whatever y'all want to do. Let me just mind my business. And so I've been a little bit more on that. But doing that, you could be in your own box and not even realize you just sent some nude art to your old choir member. Like, just could be completely disconnected from reality. So once again, excuse me, but Adam and Eve was nude. They were nude. I'm just saying.
They were. No,
Adam
you're
and
not. I
Eve.
mean, and I'm like, okay, well, he's probably got an artistic interpretation that he's coming from, and and I have to be in this space where I'm not sitting to condemn, I'm not sitting to judge, but I'm just seeking to understand,
Absolutely.
get understanding, and that's the thing. So it's like, all right, cool. I need you to help me understand, bro. That's it.
Wow. Well, a lot has happened since we last saw each other, last connected. Great moments, great choir. That was such fun. That was so therapeutic. That was so great on so many levels. And actually, in reflection, because I was looking at just like photos of myself from that era, which was a long time ago at this point. I moved back to LA in 2018. So that was also my last year teaching in a school setting. And the whole time that I was in the choir, I was going through a lot with the DC public school system, battling them. And then, specifically a Karen incident of harassment for an entire year. Recently, when I reached out to you, I didn't even share all of that up at first, but another Karen incident happened at work, and so I was terminated from my job and really just saying one word to her: no. She's a manager, and as a black man, um, I did great work for 6 months, committed, punctual, respectful, but haven't had Karen experiences in the past. Very working around her as much as I could, but it also sort of became like very you're trying so hard to just like not awaken the Karen in her that you almost become a slave to it.
Wow.
And so, I gave them a season of yes and then just gave them one no, and that no was, it started with availability. I started actually gaining weight, and I was just like, this is not even me. I'm not even recognizing myself in photos. I'm eating. I'm not even working out, but I used to just be able to work in a restaurant and didn't have to work out because of all the walking and just, cardio that came from on the job.
Right.
But it just wasn't working out apparent that way. And I was like, I'm also getting older, so maybe it's like a metabolism thing, something, whatever. And all I know is my weight shot up from, I'm usually like 185 in shape if I'm like really in shape. And I got up to like 236. For me, that is unrecognizable. It is dark. It's depressing. I didn't recognize myself. I wasn't happy there. And I just think the physical was just a reflection of what all was going on. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. They wanted like crazy availability, like 6 a.m. shifts, but then 11 a.m. shifts, and then evening shifts, 4 and 5 p.m. And I was either working doubles or just letting them schedule me however and whenever they wanted. And so my no was just, hey, after my 90 days, when I could, establish my schedule, I'm only available in the evening. I need daytime to myself to get other things done, including what I came out here to do. And that sparked retaliation from management. And
Okay.
when they did a follow up meeting with me to ask, like, can we schedule you outside of this uh, availability that you said? And I said no. That very next shift, you know, everything just sort of like exploded. And she just said, go home. And I said, no, no. And so it was seen as insubordination. And I was put on suspension. And then while on suspension, they terminated me. I just gave like the surface of it. And so I was going through a lot, and all at the same time with the termination, the date was rolling up for all of the COVID restrictions to be released in terms of rent. And so my rent, I had this looming cloud coming over me knowing that my rent was about to increase like $500 or having to pay like this large lump sum of money to keep from being evicted. So I didn't say all of that up front. I just sort of like was scrolling through my phone, overwhelmed, needed somebody to talk to. Ended up calling you, and that was the dark place. Hindsight, backstory of like when I was calling and speaking to you, when we started speaking, just overwhelmed. And then a bunch of other stuff was going on, personal stuff, family stuff. But with all of that going on, a lot of times we are a light to others in ministry, and we give, 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 and overgive. And then when our light is out, who do we have? You
Right.
know, and that was the case here. I was just like, yo, I am very isolated right now. Who can I speak to? And thank God Studley picked up the phone and we're here. So thank you. I just remember in choir,
Mm-hmm.
specifically the song "The Blood." I just remember you teaching me that. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
it was just because I didn't know it. I was just like, she is singing. And just for the record, y'all, Studley was in the tenor section with us, and I wasn't even supposed to be in the tenor section. I'm baritone, so I'm already trying to work through that.
Mm-hmm.
But you sang the mess out of that, and I just remember that experience is what drew me to you, and just your honesty always been like a very just direct, honest person. I could respect that.
No, I appreciate it, and I'm grateful for the fact that um, you reached out because I mean I don't know, man. Like sometimes I feel like when we're going through things we don't want to share. So I think that level of courage, that level of vulnerability that you just were able to express. I was truly honored by that because you didn't have to. You know what I'm saying? You just you could have just tried to process things within, whatever community you're in or with someone else. But I mean, that level of courage, that's admirable, really, because, and in full transparency, this is some area too that I struggle with asking for help or asking, someone, and being able to come to someone when I feel like my light is out. Many times I'll just process and process and process. I mean, until I finally get into a session with a therapist, I'll process and process the mess out of stuff and not really want to, have, other sources of light to actually help me recharge, refuel, because I'm just afraid to speak up about needing help in certain seasons. And that's something that I've struggled with for a long time, and I'm still battling with that whole, reaching out kind of piece. And I mean, I could take a page from your book and just do it. You know what I'm saying? Talk to somebody, because we can't pretend that we're like, these metal, unfeeling beings, like, because that's not what we are. So we were created for community. We were created, you know what I'm saying, to connect with other people. We weren't just supposed to be um, on no man's land. I think God intended for people to be there for each other and in different seasons. So But yeah, so definitely took a page out of your book, Matt. Taught me a lesson here that and helps me to reflect on how I can also improve for myself when I'm going through, so that I'm not just sitting here beating my head on a rock trying to figure out things on my own. Yes, I can go to God in prayer, but He's also given us, people. So, and discerning the right people to talk to, and I think that's also another piece, where it's like, I don't know if I should tell you my stuff because I feel like tomorrow morning it's going to be everywhere. So that getting over that piece and being like, Lord, just lead me to the right person to talk to when I'm going through this thing that can be a real source of light, support, and encouragement, so that I'm able to get through this thing. So, yeah, but I'm just grateful that we were able to connect and talk, and I got something out of it in the sense that you taught me that it's okay to reach out to others and to just express what's going on, and we don't need to know every single detail, but it's okay to still reach out and say, hey, I need help. I just need to talk to somebody about something. I need to express some things. So thank you for that opportunity and that honor, because you know you could have kept it to yourself, and I'm grateful that you didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is, for me to hear that back. First, thank you, because I didn't know. So I will just say it's all mutual and in divine alignment and purpose. Um, so I never actually ended up speaking to the therapist. You actually referred someone, and he was out here for an unfortunate cause, for a funeral.
Mhm.
So we didn't
Mhm.
end up connecting. I think I did follow up once or something with a text, but in the black community, therapy is not the hottest topic. It's not the greatest go to.
Right.
And there are little things that I hear back sometimes, and I don't even realize that it's not normal for people. And we can let the chivalry example earlier just be an example of how much of a space alien I really am living in this era. Um, you know, a little bit about me. Because ultimately, if you don't go to a therapist, I want y'all to call into the UR Live podcast and let's chat, let's talk, let's get it out. Let's start talking and communicating. Um, Even if you don't go to a therapist, the only catch is you just got to be okay with other people hearing it. Now, I am okay with you whatever sort of like identity protection you need, like as best as I can, but your voice, can't help you on that. But your name and your face, like that doesn't have to be, you know, that doesn't have to be for now, or at least for now. But something that I realized, because I guess I've always had this self healing, self navigating way of getting around to what I need, and
Mhm.
it's through God, and I guess it is also discernment, and I do follow that. But I found the root of, if you're looking for that thorn, if you're looking for that thing that has just like been a staple, or you know a part of your recurrent seasons and challenging seasons. Everyone has one. It might be a weakness, it might be a strength. But I actually started off life the first 10 years as an only child. So even though siblings were later introduced who were either A, already alive and older than me, half siblings, or were just born 10 years later, and then 20 years later, and then now I have like half sibling galore, but I'm still essentially the person that my foundation, I'm still my personality, I'm like an only child. um, and even furthermore isolated currently, just where I am in life. And so, something, I don't know if anybody out there are only children or have that experience, but that is a strength, because you realize later that a lot of people who need a lot of, other people for their daily whatever, you can do without. Like, you already know how to be on your own and independent and just sort of like, in your own world and space. But then you also get lonely as an only child, and you do want that connection, that sibling thing. And so I realized that a lot of the things that I did negligently, where it's common sense for other people to just know that you can't trust nobody just because they had siblings they couldn't trust, growing up, just whether it's just somebody taking your, chapstick or just the little things, your clothes, just, you can't trust nobody. People going to be in your stuff. And, people are people and the nature of people, and it's just constantly there. It's a part of your everyday reminder as opposed to just being in your own world and space and reality. So I do have the ability to just sort of like open up and talk to a stranger, because, I mean, it's everybody outside there is a stranger, or just like not,
Right.
So
Right.
a lot of things that are common sense were not common to me. And I went through, I think by the time I went through puberty, I started off life as a complete nerd, just like unpopular, and all of that. And so I guess they called them geeks back in the day. And I found a way, some type of way, to just sort of still be cool with everybody. But I had this like third wheel sort of like placement in life where I was like friends. I could make friends with everybody, but not realizing I was a servant, becoming a servant role in those friendships, and still sort of like a therapist counselor role. Like I could really enhance people's relationships because I would be like besties with the girl who would introduce me to the guy, and he would sort of have to live and tolerate me because we were friends. But I would also like teach him these things that would make him a better boyfriend to her.
Mm-hmm.
But then I wouldn't be in a relationship.
Okay.
And I realized that was a recurring pattern in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, yo, it all ties back in as an adult when I realized, like, yo, this thing has been going on for a while. And in this day and age, I'm like, well, it's not necessarily change it, it's monetize it. And we, make a business out of it, Like, where I am now is everything doesn't have to be changed if you accept it for what it is, and it's a strength. If you're going to be in service, then do just that, be in service. But I reached some low places in life where I realized that my foundation with ministry and free service is part of what burnt me out. Needing and wanting friendship, or just offering services that were wrapped up in friendship or disguised or masked as friendship, but really overstepping some boundaries where it's not friendship, it's service, and people are just sopping it up like a biscuit, taking, and then, they're gone. And then I'm left lonely and not realizing that, whoa, this was never a friendship. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. I offered it, I forced it, or I, just gave it away for free. And found myself very lonely, dark, and unreciprocated. No reciprocity. I don't know the best way to say that. But just that theme of whatever role I remember that I played as a young boy still happened in real life as an adult until I caught it and was just like, this only child thing, I need to address this. And so I didn't find that through going to therapy, but God has a way. And so I identified that on my own through my own little self-therapy journey. And choir was an outlet for me to just let it all out. Just let it all out until that got weird. That could get tricky to talk about. But there's several factors there. in my journey, I no longer am active with the Christian church. Um, don't love God any less. Still pray very regularly, if not more. Um, there's just a few things. There's a few things. There's a few things.
What's that?
Um. Mm, Starting with being in the choir and realizing that, like, yo, we're saying this name, and every time we say this name, people are melting into tears.
Mm.
And me having this experience as a black man, and not just any black man, but a black man at the time. Now when trends do their thing and evolve, and everybody start looking the same, then it just becomes a fad. But I grew out my hair and my beard during a time where it wasn't popular, and
Okay.
I experienced a lot. I experienced a lot of confusion and rejection from direct close family members, friends, people like not recognizing me, treating me like I was just like something. Resistance was applied. I wrote down some vocabulary words actually for the podcast. One of the words that has been coming up and ringing recently is affliction. I was like, what is this word? Because I don't really know I get the context of how it's being used, but I was like, what is the definition of this word, affliction? And so affliction, and then resistance, and just wondering what's wrong with me. Those same trigger points of me feeling like what's wrong with me when I was the only child, where it was just like rejection everywhere, was coming up as soon as I grew my hair and my beard out. And I was like, what is this? And fast forward, I realized I was experiencing a little bit of everything. Partial Islamic phobia, people treating me like how I was experiencing firsthand how people must have felt during the 9/11 times when they didn't have any affiliation at all to do with the bombers of 9/11, but everybody all of a sudden started hating Muslims, just feeling like anybody that looked like Osama bin Laden was, a threat, and they were disrespecting them and harassing them and stuff. But I started getting a little bit of that. People automatically assuming or thinking that I was like one of them. But it got even more confusing where Christians were like treating me different. And I was like, hold up. I'm seeing something here. And boom. So, in the Bible, it clearly states Yahshua or Yeshua is the original enunciation and pronunciation and spelling of the character Jesus. And I mentioned earlier that in choir we were singing this name, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone would melt and cry, and I started feeling the conviction. The information was, exposed to me at some point that Caesar Borgia is the original illustrator of the white Jesus, that blacks were actually killed for and, just treated very horribly and punished for painting or referencing or using a black Jesus. That even that word and that phrase started becoming associated. People would see me, they would be like, Black Jesus. Or I started teaching high school, and high school students would keep it a buck with you. And, they started telling me all the things that they thought I looked like. And Osama bin Laden was one, Black Jesus was one, and, the list went on. But by the time I started having the several Karen experiences, I was just like, yo, I'm seeing something here, and I'm seeing a lot of resistance. But I'm seeing, by the time I experience this resistance from other black people and other black people in even the black church, I'm like, yo, what if we just went around just talking about Yahshua and Yeshua and didn't even say Jesus, like, or a mid gospel song just was just like Yahshua, Yeshua, like how many black people would have issue with it? And I was like, are we even talking about the same person? Are these the same? Is this a fictitious character? Like, what is going on here? I just started asking a bunch of questions and eventually started feeling convicted, feeling like, yo, like, I don't know if they're the same person because they at this point have two completely different personalities, demeanors, image, and experiences. And I'm sure Michael Jackson, versus Michael Jackson, the white one and the black one, had two completely different experiences here in America, on Earth. And I just, a lot of questions were going on in my head. So when I say this, y'all, these were my thought processes. I'm not trying to influence anybody. I'm just saying what was going through my head, and a part of what started making me uncomfortable singing and ministering the word Jesus in a space where I'm like, these people have relaxers and are turning their nose up at naturals. And it just made me think historically, plantation, slave, even with the slaves and this rejection of blackness. Uncle Tom's, Samuel L. Jackson characters from Django's. I just was confused by my experience of just resistance and affliction everywhere I went. And being a distraction everywhere I went. Because I'm like, there's no way I feel like I'm this good person and I'm bringing all this positivity and I'm just experiencing all of this, and I still have no friends, and boom, 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 and bam, bam, bam. So, and feeling like a space alien, I just went into deep meditation, and I was just, so that's one part of why choir just started getting complex for me, why I started pulling back. And that was just the personal end of it. And then the other stuff was the other drama that I don't need to bring up. That kind of stuff I don't need to bring up on the podcast. But that's a little context of, like, I don't know, the space that I'm in with that. There's also a rule in language and a spiel that I have that I always use when I address this topic. And the spiel is when Esteban or Maria from a South American speaking country moves to America, is their name automatically Mary and Stephen? Just automatically. Unless they do the paperwork to go and get a name change, do we just start calling them Mary and Stephen if their name is Esteban and Maria? Whatever the answer to that question is, which is the rule that I'm aware of, is when you translate and conjugate and do all of that between languages, a name stays the same. So my question was, why all of a sudden does the name Jesus come about from Yahshua or Yeshua? How does that happen if names don't change when you translate? Because a lot of people will say, oh, well, that's the Hebrew translation. And okay, but what about the rule of language? We can change all of the rest of the Bible. I got it, the stories. But why are we changing the name again? And what's wrong with the original name? I'm just asking, again, because of my experiences of living in a world with my given name first name, and for the sake of this, I'll go ahead and say it as Studley. It's just already, it's funny. Brandon is my government first name, but also my government middle name is Sherrod. That is the name that my mom gave me. So I have not created, a fictitious name at all when I ask to be called Sherrod. I'm just asking, not even asking you. I now go by my middle name, Sherrod. But my experience as Sherrod made me think of whatever that experience Yahshua might experience coming into present times in the form and description that's clearly in the Bible, and it gives clear character description. So you all on your own time can look up Caesar Borgia and make the connection and just think about Michael Jackson in this world and how much more palatable, if that's appropriate enunciation, how much more palatable, acceptable he was in his white version versus his black version. And for me, how much more perceivably more presentable I was as Brandon, and with the haircut and the clean shaven face versus my experience coming back to LA and Hollywood as Sherrod, and with my natural Yahshua physical characteristics plus my experience, I'm like, there's something to this. So there you have it. That's my spill on the difference between Yahshua and Jesus and me and my personal journey singing in choir and starting to feel a conviction, singing and screaming the name Jesus and watching people completely melt, and then questioning what would be the response if we switched the word out just for fact-checking sake and called him Yahshua or Yeshua and consistently and didn't use the word Jesus. I started to feel as though Jesus was a fictitious character created who was given a new name, a new image, was a completely different person from Yahshua. And just like I am resisted and afflicted and, clearly there, but seen and not seen, heard and not heard, rejected in employment processes, HR and hiring, and then harassed when I'm there, gaslit when I'm there, easily terminated and unsupported when I'm gone or removed, constantly needing to prove and serve everyone's fear of uncertainty around me and natural Yahshua form and image. And then the pressure to go and shave and become Jesus and not be angry black man, but the perception of angry black man. Then you turn around and become angry at the resistance, the gaslighting. Everyone else is starting it. You are growing and being your natural self, and it's a problem. And I shouldn't have to do anything. If I'm clean, I'm clean. I don't need to. What the hell is a cleanup? Could you do a cleaner look? A cleaner look? I took a shower this morning. Used Sherrod natural products. Okay? What exactly am I cleaning up? All of these things started ringing as I was singing and feeling convicted. So I'm not here to change or alter your decision to be a Christian. I'm just sharing the convictions that I had singing the name Jesus in choir and starting to feel like, okay, this is not matching up with my personal experience here on earth because I feel very cast out and rejected And I can only imagine what Yahshua's real experience was out here and having to even become a Jesus if he had to. But he probably didn't even have to, because that's what they looked like back then. We're talking about the contamination of the book, the Bible, that we all revert back to, that even I still have to go into for context, because that's just what we have left behind. But I do want to learn other languages, and I do know another language. My other first language, you can call it a second language, but I learned them at the same time, English and sign language. And in sign language, or in language, period, you learn that verbal communication is only 10%, and the other 90% is nonverbal. And nonverbal stretches out from vibration, body language, tone, not just what you say, but how it's said. There's a lot that goes into it, and a superpower that I know and believe, but know that deaf people have, is though their audio is canceled out, like any other sense, the others are heightened. Just like blind people can probably feel and hear, to overcompensate for their lack of vision. But when you're a hearing person who can see and hear and feel, it's like you're getting all the worlds. I can see the deaf world. I can see the blind world. And we all have feeling. I hope. I wonder if there's people out there who have a sense where they can't feel. They're numb, but they can hear and see. I don't know. But what I can say is, when you are that person, the role that you play is interpreter. And so I am a sign language interpreter just naturally. I don't need a certification to do that. I have interpreted at church, but my primary purpose for sign language has always been, first and foremost, to communicate with family since birth. And something I realized in my journey is, when I'm living in the hearing world and they jump on the defensive really quick when I'm making claims of something that I believe that I'm right on, I'm like, oh, they don't know that I can see them, like really feel them and see through all that BS, because you are asking me to listen to your words, but I can literally see you and feel you and know that you're being deceptive. You're not telling the truth. I could look at you and tell you're not telling the truth, because in sign language, like, these are the ways that we can see that. So a lot of people think they're telling me something. You're not telling me anything. I can see for myself. It started to feel contaminated. And I'm like, even in present day, I'm to be free as a black man and to just like have this image, there's so much resistance to it. And it just makes me wonder, like, if Jesus were to come back today, like, what would his experience be like?
Goodness.
If he truly has the bronze, skin and hair like wool, and, the pressure would be there for him to get a relaxer. The pressure would be there. Everybody, cut your hair, and they turn around and grow it. But, mockery, I just saw it as contaminated, because white folks won't let you have nothing. And the fact that, I just said that. It's the truth. You can't have I just, that's me. That's sort of like where I am. I think I just gave y'all, like, just sort of like where I am. I'm on a spiritual journey. Again, I don't love God any less, but I do see and feel the European contamination of the Bible and how they use everything for their advantage, Even AI, I saw something recently, sort of corrected some stuff from the Bible, whereas, of course, it was white images and white pictures and stuff. So AI was correcting it and turning everything black, just because it was applying knowledge, and it only makes sense for the people to be of color,
Mm.
according to everything, the information that's there. So I don't know. It's a spiritual discussion that I just threw out there.
I mean, it's all part of it's all part of the journey, and I think one of the things that I think for many years people would kind of shy away from having these kinds of conversations because it's like, oh no, it's sacrilege, and it's like, nah, man, express, talk. I don't. It's not offending God when you speak and try to process things and get understanding and get clarity, and that's the only way to really have true relationship with God, is when you're not trying to suppress thoughts that He already knows that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, but this is definitely healthy dialogue, and it only can it can only strengthen and help you to grow. And as I don't have many of the answers, but I do believe in a God that in due season does provide the answers when He believes that, okay, you're ready, here goes. And it's like out of nowhere, you know, something is presented to you, or, you're reading something in a different set of lenses come over you, and you're able to get insight, and it's like, oh, so that's what that meant. Oh, that's why I felt that way. So, and but again, it's not, and we got to get away from the space of, oh no, you got to get these thoughts out your head. Don't question God now.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get away from that, because I don't believe, and I'm not trying to call myself no theologian or super Bible head, but I do not believe that there's any place in the Word where God says, "Don't question me, don't talk to me, don't ask me any questions." I don't believe that there's any place like that. So, I think you could keep asking the question, keep seeking, keep having conversations, and as you're navigating the different phases and stages of your life, different things will be unfolded to you. You know what I'm saying? And levels of wisdom come, and and you get to see things differently from moment to moment. So this is good. This is good. So hey, I don't have a lot of the answers. I don't have any of the answers for many of the things many of the thoughts that you brought. I don't have any of the answers, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. So it's like, but I do believe, God does have answers, and at an ordained time, you get your answers. And it's like, okay, and sometimes, what I thought was right is wrong, and God's like, yeah, dude, that was wrong. And sometimes, and there are moments where I believe that the indwelling Holy Spirit does show us when we're dead wrong. And it's like, okay, yeah, I know this sounds philosophically correct, but for what the spirit that dwells within you tells you that, okay, no, that's not actually the truth. This open your eyes to this actual reality and truth. So, I mean, and it could be years that we're holding on to certain concepts and thoughts, and then one day it's like, oh, I was wrong. And that's a really difficult place to come to. And I mean, I don't know anybody who likes to be wrong. But it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, you gotta come to a place where, okay, well, Learned a new lesson. All right, cool. But or I mean, and some people, even though they see, they know, and they won't budge from it, and that's the reality of people too. So either way.
Studley. Studley, are you there? Hello?
Brandon, can you hear? Oops.
Yes. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. How are you doing on time? Because we're on two completely different. It's 7, 8, 9, 10. Is it 10, 12 there?
It is. It's 10:12.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome.
I'm good. I'm good.
Well, we have officially, it is exactly the 1 hour mark. I'm not rushing. I wanted to check in with you. This is a podcast, URLivePodcast. We have covered a lot, and it doesn't have to be the last time to check in. I just know that that text really inspired me to just want to do this as an episode for several reasons. But I feel like we hit like all the marks. Like we talked about things from a spiritual level. We talked about things from, just the social media level and those comments. We hit the topic briefly on the whole nice guys finish last thing, which is so broad that I'm really going to be like for the year, just like addressing this and looking for it in social media and in current events. Uh, but I mean, nice guys finish last. Jesus, the story of Jesus is nice guys finish last. Oh, like he did all of that, and still Studley. They still did him dirty. They did him so dirty.
Well, but the only difference with the nice guy Jesus story is the fact that, you know, this was it was intentional, you know. And I guess that's the difference, because I mean Jesus knew his mission, his assignment was to get done in. So he knew that from jump, like from the time that they're worshiping him in the manger to, Hosanna, Hosanna. He knows it's like, nah, I'm here to be betrayed. I'm here to be whipped. I'm here to be, flogged and ridiculed, and I'm here to be, pierced and crucified. So, but unfortunately, in our time though, like the nice guys finishing last component is, I don't think people anticipate that they're gonna walk through this life and be, you know, just, done wrong, and especially when they have all good intentions. So, and I'm prayerful that maybe, we'll move away from, letting the flash and the foolishness cloud vision, but it's just getting so much. It's just so much access, and people just want all this, all this recognition. And in order to do so, sometimes people just do ruthless things. And so it's like, I mean, you'll have somebody who's saying and doing positive things. You'll see, if you're starting to compare views and likes and such, that won't get as much play. But let somebody get on there and, start cussing, fussing everybody out. Everybody's sharing that. Oh, did you see this? Did you hear that? And it's like, yo, people just love to share, negativity. But that's I guess that's what sells.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a real, I mean, and the level of access, the way, how easy it is to share, negative things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same as strength to share positive things, but for some reason, people gravitate towards the news that's just, damaging, the news that's just shocking, and I don't know, paint somebody in a negative light. They love it. And if they're not loving it, they just they flock to it, and they just give it so much attention. And it's like, I don't know how else to describe it. You love it because if you just keep flocking to the same, things that are just, the drama, the negativity, or the gossip pieces, it's it's just discouraging. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, or if there is a solution to this thing, because I mean, you can't say, oh, we'll just turn off the internet, because that's not going to happen. So, but yeah, this gives great food for thought. Nice guys finishing last. It's unfortunate, but in our present day, it's still true. In a number of cases, and I mean, good does triumph, and I do believe ultimately in the end the truth will rise to the top. But good guys struggle a lot, and I mean, it's I don't know if they cross the bear. I don't know why that's the case, but good people do struggle a lot, and especially when you're trying to do things on the up and up. So I don't know. Strange times.
Strange times. Can we close out with a song? Would you dare? Are you in a space to do it?
What song?
Any song. Yo, I just like a part of that podcast that I sent recently. And just for the record, I sent that out as fulfillment. It was like, yo, I just did this random sound check that would have just ordinarily been just like a file just sitting on my computer. But at the end of it, it was more so the way that I felt. I was just like, yo, that was fun. Like, I've been in such a dark place. I was just like, the juices. Like, that's how I used to feel after choir rehearsal, Or that's how I used to feel after a show with the band. And when I said that, like, I wasn't recognizing myself in pictures, I had gotten overweight. And I was just like, one thing I remember is that, like, choir was such an outlet. And I, remembered that, like, yo, there's a such thing as sort of like, when I was saying I would lose weight working at restaurants, I call it now occupational cardio. But choir is very physical. And we were burning a lot of calories, singing how we were singing, and 3 services on a Sunday. That was a lot of hard work. So, like, that was a part of, whatever glow that I may have had during that time. And so in me in this season, trying to get back to things that I was doing in a better season and sort of self-analyze. And I was just like, yo, whether you are a musician or not professionally, if you are a musician, then you're a musician. If you're a minister, then you're a minister. Whatever it is, whatever your calling is, you're supposed to be doing that. And if you do any season off of that, like, you're stepping out of yourself. And so that sound check was not even about perfection. It was like, do it and share it. And what I saw, it almost felt like an outer body experience listening to it back. I could hear and see myself, the knowledge, coaching myself, outer body experience. It was like me, and it's just like a weird visual that I can like paint. But like, in that whole thing was that only child talking to himself. That's what I got. But it felt good because that's me. Whatever it was, like, it was so raw and improv that I saw a little MD, musical director, teaching this young boy, whoever, how to play the keys. But it was like, but how, this is so weird. It's all coming from the same person and body and voice, but from 2 different perspectives. And I heard and saw myself pushing myself, but then also giving myself grace. But then in other parts, I saw where I was frustrated. And it was like the mental and spiritual part was pushing the physical part, who was out of shape, But like, I have, and I don't flex it, but I had like basic knowledge of keys, but would always have my limitations with it. And I was frustrated because I learned sax and keys through sheet music, and I not envy, but I just admired people who were able to play by ear or who could pick up songs, in marching band, just listening to it. And I didn't do marching band. And then later, when I finally got into jazz and just doing open mics and singing, whenever I finally learned how to sing, and whatever led me to choir, was me tapping into, reconnect, doing that same thing that I'm doing now. Like, yo, I'm getting back to me. I'm a musician, but what Sister Act 2, singing doesn't put food on the table. You know, music, it just became a bill, me having to pay musicians to do it. Just like I was, having to do all that work for friendship, being the third wheel and it never being a friendship, but like the act of doing music is what felt good. So, I try to incorporate it because if you don't, it'll be repressed and suppressed and you'll end up angry and upset and don't know why. And it's nobody's fault that you are not being what you were created to do.
I mean, yeah, man, that's truth. Because it's kind of like when you don't fulfill your assignment, you can't get mad at nobody else. I can't get mad at nobody if I didn't do my homework because I didn't do it. So,
not the whole thing, but just like, I don't know, a line, a piece. What was your favorite song to do back in the day at the choir?
Favorite song? Oof, Lord. Dang, man, Brandon, sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
I did it again.
It's relevant.
Gotta coach myself.
It's all good.
No, man, I loved a lot of songs, but I mean, like I remember the song that I loved, and unfortunately you weren't there for it, and it was mainly lead driven, and it was just Hallelujah, and it was kind of like the version that the Clark sisters did.
Hallelujah,
and,
hallelujah, hallelujah,
yeah.
hallelujah.
Huh?
Fast song.
Yeah, it was like. The lead would drive the song, and it's like hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. But it was really lead driven.
Gotcha.
And so that was a song like but the young lady who did the lead, like she's a powerhouse. And
was it Miss Beverly's daughter?
Push us, and it's like, ooh, goodness, this song is never gonna end. But yeah, man.
Was it Tia?
That was like one of my favorites, but but we never did it again. Like, and I missed that part. Like when we first learned it, I don't know if do you remember Jericho? When we first, with all the movements?
That was, that was actually a discouraging song for me, like as a spectator. When I was like trying to figure out which choir to join, I was just like, I do not want to do that. I was like, I don't even want to do that. So like, I don't even want to be like a Debbie Downer. But if I was in the choir and I ended up doing it, I ended up doing it.
I'm gonna step to the side.
Yes.
So I liked it because it was difficult and it had just so many different things going on. I enjoyed it because of it was difficult. The added choreography scared me because I'm like, oh, okay, this is a lot. But when we finally got it, it became second nature. But then we just did it so much at some point. I was just like, no, let's just retire it and never do it again. But when we first learned it, I was just like, that felt like the biggest accomplishment ever, just to get all the parts and sync. And I'm not the one that threw everybody off. Oh, I was in heaven because I'm like, I didn't throw everybody off. I made it through the thing, and it didn't stand out and come in at the wrong part, because that's definitely a possibility with that song because just so much was going on. But I mean, goodness, I loved a lot of the music, but I can't say that I need to think about that piece.
Well, if not this time, then next time.
What would be my favorite from back in the day?
Next time we connect, we need to sing.
Huh? You gonna send me something? You said.
I said next time we connect, we need to sing. We need to find a song and we need to do it.
Okay. Well, we find a song. You bring in the track.
Ah!
You bring in the track.
Wait, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear that?
Very faintly.
What would I do? Well, I won't mess with it because we're doing the whole speakerphone thing. So,
Okay.
and that's sort of. We can end right here. The Matrix. Are you familiar with just the Matrix?
The movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I just really feel like uh this whatever when he was doing the dodging the bullet and the hands moving real fast thing towards
Okay.
the end, the space that he stepped into, just sort of like beast mode. You
Okay.
know, I feel like so between the Holy Spirit and just really stepping into your season, and also I think that could be a transformation scene from not being a nice guy finishing last into stepping up into like boss mode and really stepping into your power.
Mhm.
You know, music and improv and choir and all of that really sharpens you, and just sort of being ready for whatever and always practicing to be ready to step into something and to not need a song. So just to tap into the spirit is a thing. So next time we connect, I'm just mentally preparing you that we won't know what it is, but we're gonna make it happen, and some vocals will be happening. Okay?
Oh, well, all right. But listen now, you gotta you gotta give me some leeway because I mean you're a musician. I have to really like when you see me when I would get to the rehearsal, I'd have like you know I'd have to really go to town and study before I could get to the rehearsal and get to the place where I feel
Really?
comfortable. Yeah, no, I really I would study my stuff, my the recordings and things. And the days that we didn't get recordings, I'm in trouble because I'm struggling. So I'm the kind of person that I have to really study it because it's not something that happens for me naturally. You know, I have to work at it.
Gotcha.
So that's yeah,
This felt good.
that's yeah.
This felt really good. Thank you so much for your time, Studley.
Not a
It
problem,
started.
Sherrod. I got it right.
You got it right. Yeah,
Yes,
thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much
I hope
for
you get
your
some.
willingness to share and answering my questions. I do appreciate that, and yeah, man, I appreciate you sharing your light because you didn't have to. So I do appreciate that so
Thank
much.
you. Well, you know what candles do. One candle lights the next, and my light was actually out for a while. So, in me sending that text to you, it was just sort of like, mailing somebody back a thank you, saying, like, yo, I'm actually feeling much better about life. I acknowledge I was in a dark place. And, just for the record, now, people, through this podcast and this moment, you can see. And it was weird is it don't even add up. All the resistance I get, all the now I'm like, you know what? I might just be a threat. I spent so much time like, hey, I'm not angry black man. Now I'm mad and I'm angry black man. But I'm like, y'all did all that work and y'all were hating on me at my lowest. Y'all were hating on me when I was homeless. Y'all were doing all of that. What you gonna do when I actually get some money and actually start feeling myself? Like that whole time, y'all don't even know that I'm actually mushy. And very chilling. It was never even anything for y'all to hate on or feel threatened by the whole time. I was nice guy, just chilling. So now I'm actually a little more frustrated, a little more gangster, and might actually rough you up a little bit. But was just saying thank you for your time because I am feeling much better, and you were one of the lights, the candles that I spoke to during that dark season. So just thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, and keep being your light, keep being yourself, keep your. I mean, you found your voice, so hey, it's just keep going, and this is an exciting journey, man. So I'm glad that I get to to be on the path and just to see where you headed. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Dudley. That's the UR Live podcast, y'all. I'm signing off. Till next time. Thank you. You
All
get you
right.
some rest.
All right. Peace.
Peace.